Good evening, everyone. This is Financial Literacy 101. I'm your host, Ray Ross, also known as Ross World. So tonight we're going to talk about workhorse. We're going to talk about investing. We're going to talk about debt. We're going to talk about a couple of few things that I think that you guys would be absolutely interested in for you guys to start actually investing in. Okay, for you guys to start to investing in now. We need to understand. I hear myself repeating. Give me 1 second. Let me give me 1 second. I'm hearing myself speak. Here we go. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, let's go right over to, I don't like to make too much time about this. Let's talk about workhorse. Let's talk about investing. Let's talk about making some money this evening. Now, just before we start, we know that all the atrocities that are going on right now with police murderers, police brutality, especially dealing with Jacob Blake, and we're going to touch on that at the third segment of this live podcast. Okay, so we're going to talk about investing, and then we'll get to the root of the matter. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to be doing workhorse. So let's go down our regular routine. Workhorse is up right now. Today, workhorse was down at 3%, 4% roughly. But over the 5 years, workhorse has been 183%. Okay, 183%. We understand that workhorse is a electric vehicle company that also deal in aeronautics as well. On the past year, they've been up 290%. The past 3 months, they've been up 537%. That's 537% on the last 3 months. The last month, they've been up 9%. The last week, they have been up 4%. Okay, 4%. And then today, again, they have been down roughly 4% as well. So here are my shares. I only have 6 shares of Workhorse. Okay, it cost me about $105. And as you can tell, the market value is $100. So I'm actually losing on Workhorse. And what's imperative to note here, it says your average cost. So I paid $17.56. Okay, which is if I bought, let's say for instance, I had 10 shares and I bought 3 at 18, I bought 3 at this amount. Is this an average? Okay, so that doesn't mean I paid for each individual stock at that amount. Okay, thus the stock being $16.70 a share. All right, let's read more about this in case you guys don't know. Workhorse engages in the designing and build performance battery electric vehicles and aircraft. Keyword aircraft. So they're in many sectors, believe it or not. And we're going to go over their partners as well. It develops cloud-based real-time telematics performance monitoring systems. The firm operates in 2 divisions, automotive and aviation. The automotive division operates as an original equipment manufacturer of class 3 and 6 commercial grade medium-duty truck chassis, marketed under the Workhorse brand. The aviation division offers delivery drones, key here, delivery drones, and Surefly multi-copter. The company was founded by Stephen S. Burns on February 20th, 2007. It's headquartered in Loveland, Ohio. Okay, they only have 81 employees. I don't know what type of vehicles they're making, but I don't know what type of trucks they're making, but with 81 employees, I can only imagine. But we'll get into the details of the business. Here are their collections, manufacturing. They're part of the 100 most popular under 25, automotive, aerospace, road transportation, air transportation, and transportation. Here's the recent news. Workhorse Group reported quarter 2 sales of 91.94 thousand, whatever. Okay. So look at this, ladies and gentlemen. So Q2 sales, look how far it dropped down. Because we understand on Q1, and that's what makes us go all the way back up to the 3-month mark, they were up 537%. So they were killing it. Okay. They were killing it. Man, look at that. 724%, 725% on July 2nd. So let me scroll down just a little bit. And now, boom, Q2, way down. Now, hopefully, we can start seeing some upward movement here in Q3. You can see, I bought some, then I sold some, and I'm going back and forth with Workhorse. I'm indecisive about this company right now because we're going to get into another company called Xpeng. I might be saying it wrong. It's a Chinese name, but I did let the cat out the bag early this morning when I went live as well for my stocks. Now, people also bought Neo, Electromechanica. I actually did a stock review on that. Blink Charging and Tortoises acquisitions. Okay, let's move right along to Market Watch. All right, let's see what is significant report here. So in the last 52 weeks, this stock was down at $1 and then shot up to $22.90. So I want you guys, I love doing this because I want you guys to picture if you would have bought 100 of shares, because you know $1.32, you know, okay, so it's a little bit over $100. So let's say $130, $40 that you spent, you know, to buy 100 of these shares. Think about when it hit $22.90. You would have made essentially $21 per share, or roughly, if you subtract the amount that you invested, you would have made roughly $20 per share. Okay, $20 per share. And a lot of people, a lot of investors, what they do is they don't just go and buy 100, they buy 500, 1,000. And those big time mentor investors, okay, with a lot of capital and they know all this stuff up here correctly, they buy, you know, 500,000 shares. This is how people make it rich. Sometimes they just go all in. That's risky, but that's how they do it, ladies and gentlemen, okay? All right, so EPS, earning per share, this company is operating out of debt, just like every other electric vehicle company. So don't let that throw you from investing. Let's read some of the important headlines here. It says, another electric car maker is going public. What you need to know. Now, this one actually became public today, and I thought it was tomorrow. I was going to invest in it, and it's absolutely doing well. So right now, ladies and gentlemen, get your Robinhood accounts, get your Webull accounts, get your M1 Finance accounts, and you should be investing in this company. I'm gonna tell you why. Electric vehicles in China are doing absolutely tremendous. It's because their middle class, I can only imagine how big it is at 1.3 billion in population, okay? Another analyst weighs in on Nikola stock. Why this one is cautious. I'm not sold on Nikola. I'm not. I'm really not sold on Nikola. Let's see what else is important to note. Nothing there. Let's move on. Okay, this is Workhorse, ladies and gentlemen. This is Workhorse. I'm gonna read a little bit here. They do delivery vans, delivery drones, and telematics. I'm not gonna read that, but I'm just trying to give you some insight and some context, okay? That's their whole story. Blue chip customers, UPS, DHL, Alpha, FedEx, and whoever that guy is. I have no idea. I didn't research that far into this because I have so much information to cover tonight. I just don't know who that guy is. But listen, we're talking about three major logistics companies, UPS, DHL, and FedEx. Those are huge. So Workhorse is making not making vehicles, but they're having dealings with these logistic companies, shipping packages, okay? Now, world-class partners, some of you may know, of course, Ryder, Dana, and Panasonic. Now, some of you may even know Duke Energy, okay? But these guys are in this space. They're in this space that a lot of electric vehicles not in, okay? Again, I want to go back to they're in delivery vans. They're in delivery vans, okay? So other people who are looking into delivery vans for electric vehicles, you know it is. It's the infamous, it's the famous Amazon. You know it, because that is why Amazon actually invested $700 million in Rivian, okay? That's why, because they want to be a part of that, that platform. Okay, now their headquarters in Loveland, Ohio. Their worst house factory is in Union City, Indiana. All right, this is their CEO, okay? Dan Hughes, who's this guy? Their CFO, Steve Schrader. Their COO, their Chief Operating Officer, Robert Wilson, and it goes on. You can learn all these people, but you know who they are. All right, let's move along. Let's break this down just a little bit more. So I was looking up some videos about the vehicles. Now, I'm not sold that these vehicles are yet for consumers, for your everyday customers. I'm not sold on that yet, because right now, Workhorse is actually owned by Lordstown Motors. Lordstown Motor, that's what I'm getting at. Like, it's so much confusing about this company, but I can see that they can actually tackle this market before Amazon get on board, right? Now, because Amazon has their own, they have their own ecosystem. They do everything in-house. If they don't do it in-house, they do a contract, then they eventually buy out those companies. It's like they just consume everything. And this is why Elon Musk was very weary about Amazon, because he was basically telling a bunch of federal officials, you know, the SEC, the FTC, you name it, all the C's, all the 3-letter agencies and 4-letter agencies. And he was talking about how Amazon is getting too big, how Amazon is now bleeding over into the electric vehicle market. And this is quite simple. It's quite simple. There's no way you're going to invest $700 million inside of a company and not have a large stake in it. 1. 2, you're going to start producing electric vehicles, or you have a partnership and they're going to give you electric vehicles because of that 700 million. And you're going to start replacing your product line with those electric vehicles. This is what they know. This is what they know. So we essentially have to understand this space of electric vehicles, ladies and gentlemen. We have to understand this space of electric vehicle because it's an imperative that you guys understand these investments. All right, before we move on, let's see who's in the room. We got Nolan Baptiste. Good evening, kind sir. Good evening, good evening, good evening. We got Lady Luck and we got Matt People. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad for you joining me today. If you're in the chat room, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you don't like this video, give it a thumbs up because maybe the next one you'll like. But anyway, I'm chattering, I'm talking. Let's move on. Let's move on. And let's talk about Xpeng. For the sake of argument, I'm going to call it Xpeng because I do not know how to pronounce this name that's in China. Let's call it Xpeng. Give me 1 second. Rose. Okay. It's the evening, guys. You know, I don't do that during my live sessions during the morning, but you know, brother chilling out, whatever. Okay. So Xpeng, even if I go to 5 years, ladies and gentlemen, even if I hit the 5-year line chart, we got Xpeng still released on August 27, 2020. You see that? I come up here, you see it blinking, okay? But yeah, they released today around, well, it says here, so 8 a.m. 8 a.m., they actually pre-market, they came out at a swamping, okay? They just shot off the market at 53%. At 53%. Do you understand that I've been researching these guys for about a month and somehow I got the dates mixed up and I had no money. in my Robinhood account. I already maxed out my instant deposit. I was so upset. And I was like, what stocks do I sell? Like, do I sell Workhorse? Do I sell AMD? And I looked at AMD like, no, I'm not selling AMD. Like, I got any money left? No, I don't have any money. You see right here, I don't have any available buying power, okay? But this is your opportunity not to be a fool like me and invest in Xpeng. So let's go about it. So we don't really need to do any of the line chart except today, because that when they was a release. About. Now, when it comes to their about, they don't have any information listed on here yet. I don't know why. This is the information that Robinhood needs to have on here already. Like, if I'm just scouring Robinhood for, you know, investments under $25, you mean to tell me, you know, you could have told me IPO or something, or you could have told me who's a CEO. They don't have any of that information on here. They just got open price $23. And then the low today was $21.20. Like, come on. I mean, what are we doing here, Robinhood? And I like Robinhood, but again, I invest mostly on Webull. Anyway, let's go a little bit deeper into Xpeng. Okay. Xpeng Automotive Technology, also known as X Motors, is a Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer. Now, granted, ladies and gentlemen, don't get your emotions in investments. I mean, some of you may not like the Chinese for things you heard they're doing in Africa, for things they're doing in America. Who cares? We're talking about money, making money, making money, making money. The company is headquartered in that part of China with offices in Mountain View, California. They have offices in Mountain View, California. They roughly have around 3,700 employees. Then I'm just going to read some of the headlines here. Chinese EV startup XPeng Motors raises 1.5 billion in U.S. public market debut. And it talks about raising the 1.5 million, and we get into this, that, and the other. Okay, now important. Let's go over to their website. Let's learn a little bit more about these. Now, they're doing SUVs and sedans. Now, they're talking about super long range. What else they got? Now, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking at these vehicles from China, NIO and XPeng. On the outside, they're looking really good. I don't, now granted, China is notorious from sending, toys over here with lead in them. So, but here's the thing, what I don't understand, that when we start talking about China, what people don't understand is, like, I had this various pieces of equipment around here, and I'm just pretty sure that it's probably made in China. Let's see here. What is it made in? Made in China. All right. So yeah, pretty much 90% of the things that are in your home is made in China. So what should I tell you? That the Chinese is very capable of making solid products. Okay, I have a LG monitor and I have an Asus computer. Okay, I'm just making references here. Okay, we're gonna look at the vehicles. So that's the SUV, that's the sedan, and then they showing some of production line. But let me just show you something. I'm gonna show you, about the Chinese. Okay, so Asus is a Taiwanese, also known as Chinese in some cases. And I don't want to offend any Taiwanese people, but the whole fight with Taiwan and China, but they consider it China, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Multinational computer and phone hardware and electric company. Again, majority of your products, even if it's Samsung or LG, Koreans still get some of their stuff built in China because it's still cheaper. Okay. It's still cheaper. So we need to understand that products from China are very solid. It just depends on the maker. Okay, this depends on the maker. That's what we need to understand. Jermaine down the street, he said, great dialogue. Charles Green said, good evening, Ross. Good evening, kind sir. And Mike, what's going on, brother? Learn money and be inspired. You know it. So we need to understand and get up on the investments. And that is why I wanted to show you this again, because I don't think everyone was here this morning, but this is imperative for you to really make some sense of this, is the Google Alerts IPO. This is the Google Alerts IPO. They almost come out daily. Not every day I've seen them come out, but they almost come out daily, and they continue to give me information. Now, granted, look at this. August 23rd, 2020. Think about this. It says, now this stock, XPeng Motors, okay, is at the top, right? Which got my attention. This IPO Google alert came out August 23rd, and I went and started researching the company. And with that, I went over and I started looking at the pictures, like they look just good, just like NIO. But I knew about this IPO 5 days before it released. That means that you have enough time. You have ample time to research this stock. And it's coming right to your email. You don't have to scour the internet. You don't have to search high and search low. The information is right there in your email. And it says IPO launch. XPeng process terms for $1 billion. Has failed to raise $1 billion from the sales of American Deposit shares representing underlying Class A shares in IPO, blah, blah, blah. You got the Seeking Alpha. That's a big investment source for information, as well as Benzinga. You click on the title, it pops you in, and you can read information from this particular news source, okay? And what I like here, let me go back. We got all these pop-ups. They got to sell you advertisements to get your money out your pocket. But it says major competitive or other industry participants include. This is what I love, because you like, okay, I haven't heard of these other vehicle makers in the electronic space. Now, I heard of NIO. We love NIO for now, okay? Fall in love, but learn how to fall out of love, okay? Again, I used to say this when I used to do my high yield savings videos. Do not, how I used to say it, I forgot. Do not have loyalty to banks. Some of you is like, oh, I've been with Bank of America for 20 years. I've been with Wells Fargo's for 20 years. Let me tell you something about these banks, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, and I'm kind of segueing into my next part of my video. I'm going on dark mode on y'all, called dark mode. Bank of America and Wells Fargo was part of the slave trade, if you guys didn't know. How do you think poor farmers was buying up slaves? How do you think? Just like anything else, they got loans. Those banks were some of the first people, first institutions rather, because those institutions are made of those people, who started to repossession. You know how you go, oh, I'm gonna get my car repoed. And if you don't pay, your bills and you rent out your entire home, you can get that repoed. Well, slaves were one of the first properties, because slaves were considered as property, to be repossessed, to repo when people did not produce the amount in cotton, sugar cane, tobacco, and pay off all their debts. They came and got their slaves and then resold them to somebody else. All right, I'm stopping there for now. Anyway, so these are other electric vehicle companies that you guys can actually get into if they're listed on the three, on the three stock markets, whether it be the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, or the New York Stock Exchange. Not the three stock markets, the three exchanges, okay? All right, but you can read all this great information. That's my point. I'm gonna go back here just to show you what I'm talking about. But they show you all these IPO releases. Airbnb files confidential paperwork for an IPO. But remember, I talked about Airbnb the other day. And I talked about how they are no longer allowing parties at their establishments. What's the purpose of an Airbnb if you can't party at one? I don't want to party at my house. Rose, that's pretty good. Airbnb banned parties and rentals ahead of initial public offering. That doesn't mean that Airbnb won't do well. I'll be surprised if Airbnb have a fast start. I would be surprised. I'll be surprised. I'll just keep it at that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm moving right along. Now, you got Nanex makes the NASDAQ, and it says a medical imaging company partly owned by SK Telecom. And tell me, I've been to Korea 4 times. SK Telecom is a huge communication company in Korea. Okay, so they're partially owned by SK Telecom, made an IPO on the US NASDAQ. And let me tell you, a lot of the X-ray machine, Koreans are huge in the medical equipment market, okay? So watch out for Nanex as well, okay? All these things intertwine in investing. See, information is powerful, and information can make you a lot of money. It's just about being informed, okay? That's why I come on every morning, Monday through Friday, and give you guys stock tips, because it's imperative that you guys know the information so you can invest inside of. I'm just going through my emails, ladies and gentlemen, but that's pretty much it for that, because we're about to segue into my third segment of today. I'm going to read some of your notes, and then we're going to get into that. Got to be more careful, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that's some really good drink. So let me see who's in the chat room before I get started. I might start sweating over here. Who knows? I might burn some calories. My gym guy, I could go doing this 21-day challenge, me and my girlfriend, and hopefully he don't see this video. Oh, you want to drink? He's from Brazil. You want to drink alcohol, do you? He gonna work the crap out of me tomorrow. All right, let's see here. Jermaine down the street says, well, over half of American imports come from China. People need to get over it. They do. Ron Beck, whatever happened to bumpers on cars? The 70s? That's what happened. It went away in the 70s. Jermaine down, she said, what do you think about 5G stock companies and Siegel and Chow? It's going to be slow growth. Now, as they're building the infrastructure for 5G telecommunication, I know when I went to Dallas about a month ago, my phone was getting 5G. Now, my phone is not a 5G phone, but the way AT&T does it, now I'm no tech savvy guy, you can still receive portions up to 5G speeds, okay? Portions up to 5G speeds, okay? So essentially, once they build the infrastructure, it's similar to the electric vehicle market. Once they build that infrastructure, and it becomes widely known, because in my area, this is a new housing development area, okay? They don't have towers for 5G. So people are like, well, I'm gonna go out and buy a 5G phone. Thus, thus the 5G market taking over. That doesn't mean that they won't do well. I just don't, it's gonna take time. That's all I'm saying. So if you wanna invest now at a low price point, then do so, because eventually, evolution and technology will win. We can only go forward in technology. We're not going back, okay? We're not going back. So with that being said, I think that you should do your research and, of course, invest on your own accord, okay? So, my advice is always do your research and then you make the decision. Now, if you're asking me personally, I'm gonna be looking to invest in 5G companies in the next 2 months, okay? In the next 2 months, because eventually, evolution of technology, we're gonna make it there, okay? Okay, so let's get to this. Let's get to the next topic at hand, and we're talking about Black in America. And I apologize to some of you who love just seeing me on camera, but it's one thing I have to do here. It's one thing I have to do. I have to go to dark mode. I have to. Okay. I have to, because with this particular topic, with everything going on, ladies and gentlemen, America is in the same situation that we've always been in. America is in the same space that we've always been in. I'm going dark mode, guys. I need to speak to you off camera, because these are some of the things that I really need to get off my heart, okay? And if you guys stay with me, I just want to take you on a journey. I'm gonna play a little bit of background music for you guys. Hopefully it's not too loud. And we really need to think about some things here, because not just the athletes that are boycotting, everyone that is heavily melanated, we need to understand that we are under attack, and we've always been under attack. I can show you pictures from slavery, but here it is in the 50s and 60s, and we're continuing to go through the same thing, where they send the slave catchers after us, AKA the police. And if they can't apprehend us, in most cases, they don't even try to subdue us or detain us, they kill us. So it's imperative that you guys totally understand that we are under siege, but we've always been under siege. Let me share something with you that I wrote, I want to say about 10 years ago. Now, excuse the verbiage, is not well written. I will give out that disclaimer. But the name, I posted this on my Facebook page, okay? Now, I did edit this slightly. Generational curse. We as Black people fail and are tricked into a trap of never changing. I know, double negative. We are tricked into a trap of never changing. I would like to focus on my love, Black people. Constantly, day in and day out. We try to do better, feel better, and look better. Or do we? Growing up in Southeast DC with my aunt, uncles, and cousins, I was constantly reminded, subconsciously, of what we didn't do as a family, community, and a people, or anything that above. We didn't read books, eat healthy, learn to be diverse in languages. And that just means speak appropriately when the time is given. Good English when need be, but slang as well. We do that. That's part of our culture. We didn't value good sleep. We didn't try new things. And we did not exercise as a family. And we do not exercise as a community. No fault to my cousin or me. We were kids. We simply followed suit. A product of our environment. Generational curse. It's easy to say they did their best to raise us, or did they simply follow history from their mom and their dad? I don't know. What I do know is that the same was always the same. We never tried any new foods except for deer. Experiences, adventures. We never did none of those things. We never ventured out past King's Dominion, which was a local amusement park. We absolutely never worked out as a family or any active event together. Generational curse. Are we doing the same thing our parents did? Are we still eating fried chicken 3 days a week? And boy, I do love fried chicken. I'm not saying give it up. I'm not saying act, eat, and think like any other race. I'm saying we should not fall into the generational curse when we see Black people skiing, skydiving, scuba diving, spelunking, that's caving, mountain climbing, trying new foods, eating buffalo and sushi, goat and lamb, etc. You get what I'm saying, or so I hope. What do? We say, oh, I'm not doing that. That's white people stuff. Or that's Hispanic or Asian stuff, etc. Well, let me tell you, hiking is great. Scuba diving is out of this world. Watch out for sharks, of course. Caving is mysterious and dangerous and scary. Skiing is exhilarating. All these things may seem extreme at first, but whom are we kidding, Black people? Let's have fun. Yes. Oh, yes. The club is fun. Amusement parks, roller rinks, cabarets, house parties, concerts, shows, museums. But are we truly living? We are a little, but this world is grand. Let's travel. And Vegas doesn't count. Let's go outside the country and see new people and new cultures and new experiences. Africa, what's that? Maybe your homeland. Check it out. Stop having Europeans, stop having non-Black people, stop having Black people from Africa tell you not to go to Africa, because then you're gonna find out how exciting Africa is to see each and everybody that looks like you. They may sound a little different. They may look a little different, but you may see you over there. What's truly your homeland? Now, what have you tried new? So earlier I said, reading books, right? I know we read every day, but what are we reading? Is it simply Facebook or Shades of 50, whatever? Or is it the debt that owes to America? The debt that America owes to Black? How to increase your credit score, or Move My Cheese, or Dr. Claude Anderson book, Black Labor, White Wealth, or Powernomics. Now, I have said a few things, and if it doesn't strike you, then maybe you already do these things or plan to, or you simply want to exist and not live. That's what we're doing. We are existing, not living. The Creator made life beautiful, wonderful, peculiar, exciting, and lovely. I challenge us to go out and read a book that increases our vocabulary, our lexicon, our vernacular, to speak on a level of intelligence, and not to speak like white people or anyone else. But how about we understand them? I challenge us to eat healthy and try new foods that not only fuels the body, but the mind as well. I challenge us to go out and do something you have never thought of doing, like skiing or jet skiing. There are plenty of things to do instead of partying. I challenge us to take our family and work out together, a lap around the park, basketball, swimming, frisbee, whatever. I most importantly challenge us to think differently, so we act differently, so we look different, and we feel different. We are kings and queens of this earth. Well, some of us are workers, but most of us are part of the kingdom and the social structure. Now, we always say that we derive from kings and queens, and we are kings and queens, and we know how shady that can be, because everybody can't be a king and queen, because maybe you come from another bloodline and maybe you were just a servant. But nonetheless, you come from a powerful people. Not everybody in Africa was a king, chief, and queen. See, Europeans, that means the British, the Portuguese, the Dutch, the Spanish, the French, the Danish, the Indians, okay, the Indians from India, and the Native Americans and Arabs enslaved our ancestors. But we are let go from bondage. We are let go from bondage, not exactly free, as you can tell, not in this country. Let's enjoy this life we have, because YOLO, that means you only die once. I say, if you're scared of trying some of these extreme things, then don't do it. Don't do it for you. Do it for your family. At least you would know there are other things out there than partying, drinking, smoking weed, and twerking. Oh, yeah. I love some good twerking every now and again with that WAP, okay? And that's that wet ass pussy. And for you guys who may go the other way, that's that WAP. That's that wet ass pussy. Let's think about this, family. There's been a lot of atrocities been happening to our people even before the transatlantic slave trade. Let's think about this. The most important thing that some people may say in the argument is that all of these things are important, whether it be equal justice, closing the wealth gap, funding and having resources and access to wealth, police brutality, police murderers, police violence. But let's focus on one thing, because this is a financial channel. Exactly how bad is the wealth gap between blacks and white? Now, according to the 2016 Federal Reserve data, African Americans own approximately 1/10 of the wealth of white Americans. See, in 2016, and the reason why I say that is because we understand after those 8 years of Obama, there was a reckoning, there was a recollection, there was a illumination of what didn't happen that we thought did happen. The median wealth for non-retired black household 25 years old and older was less than 1/10 that of similar situated white households. See, the black-white wealth gap has not recovered from the Great Recession. And I believe that the Great Recession was back in 1921. In 2007, immediately before the Great Recession, the median wealth of blacks was nearly 14% that of whites. Although black wealth increased at a faster rate than white wealth in 2016, blacks still own less than 10% of white wealth at the median. You guys are not hearing me. See, it's important to know that the Latino and certain Asian American and Pacific Islanders, called the AAPI, okay, Asian American Pacific Islanders, household wealth falls far below their white counterparts as well. Let's put this into perspective, though. In 2016, the median wealth for Black and Hispanic families was $17,600 for Blacks and $20,700 for Hispanics, respectively, compared with white families. Now, that was our median. That was our median wealth for Black people at $17,600. Compared to white families, median wealth of $171,000. The disparity between white and AAPI wealth is often overlooked because collectively their average and median wealth is compared to whites. I'm gonna say it again. The disparity between whites and AAPI, that is your American, Asian, Pacific Islander wealth, is often overlooked because collectively their average and median wealth is compared to whites. This is why you don't see Asians protesting. This is why you don't see Asians fighting, because their white, their gap, their wealth is compared to whites. They're highly above Hispanics and Black people, and everybody's above Black people, even Hispanics. There is, however, significant wealth inequalities among AAPIs, but we won't talk about that because their wealth is already close comparable to whites. Now, you know, as Black people, African Americans, Afro Americans, Negroes, Pan Africans, whatever you want to call us, we face systematic challenging in narrowing the wealth gap with whites. The wealth gap persists regardless of household education, marital status, age, or income. For instance, the median wealth for Black household with a college degree equal about 70% of the median wealth for white household with a college degree. And the gap worsens as households grow older. In 2016, Blacks between 50 and 65 years old and near retirement only had 10% of the wealth of whites in the same age group. This is down from approximately 24% gap in 1998, when the same groups of people were between 32 and 47 years of age. See, Blacks have fewer assets than whites and are less likely to be homeowners, to own their own businesses, and to have a freaking retirement account. Who's going to take care of you, family? Who's going to take care of you? Where's your 401k? Did they fire you before you got it? Did you start your IRA? Financial Literacy 101. This is what we teach. We teach investments. We teach wealth management. We teach you how to raise your credit score, how to use debt for good, debt management. See, the most recent data available for 2016 showed that when Blacks owned such assets, they were worth significantly less than assets owned by whites. You want to know why? The whites in this country, they tell the country what neighborhoods, property valuations are $350,000 in this neighborhood per home, $450,000 valuation per home. What if you live in Houston in a Black higher class neighborhood? What if that was a white neighborhood? Who gives that evaluation? Who assesses that property? Let's think about the family. See, Black households have more costly debt management. In 2016, Blacks with debt typically own $35,560 less than 40% of the $93,000 in debt owned by whites. However, because Blacks owned larger amounts of high interest debt, such as installment credit and student and car loans, the debt they typically owed was more expensive. For example, Blacks carry larger credit card balances than whites. Did you know that? But let's talk about it. The persistent racial wealth gap leaves African Americans in economically precarious situation, creates a vicious cycle of economic struggle. The lack of sufficient wealth means Blacks are less economically mobile and therefore unable to grow their wealth over time. Policy levers such as improved access to higher education alone, while important, will not be enough to create equal opportunity in terms of wealth building for all. Only broad and persistent policy attention to wealth creation can address this glaring inequality and inequity. Family, that's what we have to understand. Did you know? Let me share this with you, family. Black and African American communities and mental health. This is another part of our problem. You know, a lot of us don't like to admit that we have psychological issues. But sometimes these numbers, why are these numbers so high? Are they accurate? Is this another form of white supremacy? Or are we terrorized in our minds from the country and how we treated in this country? It says here 13.4% of the US population identify as Black or African American. And 16% of those 13 reported having a mental illness in the past year. This is over 7 million people. There are more people than the population of Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia. Think about that, family. And think about the people who don't even tell you about their mental issues. See, we don't want to talk about those things. Those are the things that scare us, that we have a mental issue. I mean, what is systematic racism? What is it? What does it really have to do with? Does it have to deal with the wealth gap? I mean, did you know that in 2010, Black Americans made up 13% of the population, but only 2.7% of the country's wealth? Think about that. That the median net worth for a white family, again, we're going back to 2010, not 2016, because it's even grown even larger. Because in 2016, I told you $171,000, but in 2010, the median net worth for a white family was $134,000. But the median net worth for a Hispanic family was $14,000, and the median net worth for a Black family was $11,000. So we grew to 17,000, while white Americans grew from 134,000 to 171,000. See, while for Hispanic women, it was 140, and for Black women, it was 120. Did you know that? Probably not. What about employment? Did you know that no matter what else is going on in America, year in and year out, for the last 60 years, Black unemployment is always about twice as high as white unemployment? And even if you just look at a Black college graduate, they're still almost twice as likely to be unemployed as a white college graduate. And if you just apply for a job with a white sounding name, you're 50% more likely to get a call back than with a Black sounding name. Am I telling you mothers and fathers out there to stop naming your kids Mohammed, Mustafa, Daryl, Donald, Tyrone? I'm not. But these are the statistics. These are the facts. This is not my rhetoric. This is not my bias. These are the facts. Systematic racism, housing discrimination. What would you call it if lifetimes of legal segregation followed by decades of pervasive racist housing policies still to this day, okay, disadvantage Black people in almost every aspect of life, because where you live can decide everything from how safe you are, to what food you eat, to the quality of your health care, to the quality of your job, to the quality of your children's education. All that is predicated upon where you live. Where do you live? This is why they do redlining in neighborhoods. This is why Missouri had the 3230 line. This is why they put all the Blacks by all the public transportation and subway, because the whites didn't want to hear that noise. This has to do with healthcare and jobs, child education, systematic racism. We're not going to even get into government surveillance. I don't even want to go that deep. But you probably know that today's technology lets the government watch what we do and track where we go more than ever before. But did you know that government watches some of us a lot more than others, depending on where we come from? Now, see, that as recently as 2011, the NYPD was exposed for targeting their surveillance, specifically as what they call ancestries of interest. That was your Indian, Bangladesh, Pakistani, Guyanese, Egyptian, and Lebanese. Why not Blacks? They don't need to spy on us. They just come lock us up and kill us, regardless if we did anything or not. Systematic racism, incarceration. Did you know that back in the 80s, there were less than, again, back in the 80s, there were less than 500,000 people in the US prison system, less than 500,000. But now, thanks to a war on drugs and the crack cocaine epidemic, there are more than 2 million people in jail. That out of every 100,000 Americans, okay, out of every 100,000 Americans, about 700 are incarcerated. Now, But out of every 100,000 Black men, over 4,000 are incarcerated. Can I help you guys out with that? Did you see the correlation in that? Out of every 100,000 Americans, 700 are incarcerated. But now, out of every 100,000 Black men, over 4,000 are incarcerated. And one of the many effects of that trend is that it combines with felony and disenfranchisement laws. It means that 13% of Black American men are denied their right to vote. Systematic racism, drug arrests. Did you know that over 40% of drug arrests are not for selling any drugs, but just for possession of marijuana? And we know that marijuana is legal in what, 9 or 10 states now and in DC? And that white and Black Americans are both equally likely to use marijuana. Again, we are equally likely to use marijuana, whites and Blacks. But blacks are 3 to 4% more likely to be arrested for it. And that even if they don't get convicted of a crime, that arrest can stay on their record and affect their chances at good jobs, housing, bank loans, and this, unfortunately, stays with us for the rest of our lives. You know, we talk about the immigration policy. We talk about the course over the time that a lot of immigrants from the Caribbean, from Africa has been coming over here. And you've heard some of your Black conscious speakers, whether it be your Dr. Boyce Watkins, your Tariq Rashid, your Jason Black on the Black Authority, Dr. Claude Anderson. You talk about that these immigrants that come over here, and a lot of them are not really for us foundational Black Americans, that they're coons, that they buck dance, that they busted up for zaddy, because the Europeans went to their country and took over, and still to this day, they allow the Chinese to steal their wealth by their natural resources. But I'm not saying all my African brothers and sisters, regardless of what country in Africa they come from, that they are coons. But we have to understand that there's a good population, there's a good volume of them that come over here and sell their souls to their white slave masters. When they speak out against us because they don't know the atrocities that we went through, they think that we are privileged and that we're just lazy. And what they don't tell you guys is that when immigrants come over here, did you know for like 2 or 3 years, they get to live for free? And yes, they have a repayment program, so to speak. But during that time that you don't have to pay rent, that you don't have to pay living expenses, that you get special grants and loans at low interest rates, they start businesses, they stack their money, they live together. See, we don't have essentially a home. Our home that we don't know of is Africa. They do. If things doesn't work out for them here, they can go back. If things don't work out for us, where do we go? So if you are an African, not a foundational Black American, not an African American, thank you, Jesse, I guess, then don't speak to our issues. Don't speak to our problems, and don't fucking sell us out. Keep your fucking mouth shut. Don't talk to your white slave masters about how Black people in America are lazy and how you came over here and started a business in 3 to 5 years. Keep your mouth shut. You don't know our issues. You don't know our problems. You don't know what we go through. My heart goes out to the Jacob Blake family and what you guys have seen with your own eyes. George Floyd was not enough. Breonna Taylor was not enough. Trayvon Martin was not enough. Medgar Evers was not enough. Medgar Evers was not enough. He was assassinated in 1963. MLK, assassinated in 1968. And our brother Malcolm, Minister Malcolm, Black nationalist, was assassinated in 1965. Will there ever be enough? Will there ever be enough? Black people, what do we do? Malcolm said the ballot or the bullet. The ballot or the bullet. Give me freedom or give me death. What does that mean? Red Summer 1919. Look it up. Red Summer 1919. I don't want this video to be banned like my other video that YouTube did. So I got to be very, very cautious the way I tread this lane, how I go down this path. But Red Summer of 1919, I want you guys to look it up and understand what that means. And Malcolm said the ballot or the bullet. I want you to hear that speech and you tell me what it means. I'm going to take a small sip of my rosé for our Black leaders who gave their lives for all of us. Thank you, Malcolm X. Thank you, Martin Luther King. Thank you, Medgar Evers. Thank you, the Black Panther Party. Thank you, Marcus Garvey. Thank you, Frederick Douglass. Thank you, Sojourner Truth. Thank you, Harriet Tubman. Thank you, Rosa Parks. We thank you. But the fight is not done. The battle is not won. Black people are still under siege. Even after George Floyd's death, even before Jacob Blake, there were Black men and women still dying at the hands of the police. There were Black men and women still dying at the hand of white supremacists. This country was founded on racism. This country wealth, every single dollar was built on the backs of our ancestors. What's your question? Do you go and vote for Joe Biden, who made the 1994 crime bill, as the senator of Delaware? Do you vote for Kamala Harris, AKA the first Black female VP candidate who locked up and prosecuted a lot of Black men in California and also came up with the truancy law that mostly affected foundational Black Americans? Do you vote for them? Or do you vote for Donald Trump, who may not have said anything blatantly racist, but have said some things that really tells you what he thinks about Black people? Or do you sit your tail at home and start to really think about, do I create my own economic system with my people? Do I get educated? Do I get financially grounded? Because if you notice, fam, when you went out and voted last time and the time before that and the time before that, that your life has not changed because you voted in your national election. Yeah, I agree that your local, your state, and your community elections are those elections you should really vote in. I agree. You should vote in those elections. But when is the last time that you voted in the national election that really changed your life? And some of you like, oh, the affordable healthcare plan. Let me inform you guys of a small secret. Obamacare, the Affordable Healthcare Plan Act, rather, helped out everybody. Helped out Hispanics, mostly, Blacks, and whites. See, nothing has been done specifically for our people. The Italians, reparations. Japanese, reparation. The Jews, reparations from Germany. The Native Americans continue to get reparations till this day, and they will continue to get reparations as long as this country stands. Some of you are thinking about visiting Africa and figuring out, should you move there? What country, what area, what community? Changing your entire life. Some of you said, I'm not going to leave my home. I'm going to fight for my home. I'm going to die for my home. Do I believe that any of you are wrong? Do what's best for you and your family. But there's one thing that you guys are absolutely going to need. You know what you're going to need, family? You're going to need money. You're going to need money, family. You're going to need money. Let me just tell you that. You're going to need money on the highest plateau, on the highest plane you can possibly imagine. You're going to need money. I'm going to read some of your notes and I'm going to get out here for tonight. But I thank you for staying with me. I thank you for hearing me out. And hopefully you got some insight and some information you didn't know. Now I can spew into a list that I wrote the other day, and I will. And this again, to reiterate some things that I think that you guys should go over. I think that you guys should really, really go over. Let me read some of your notes. I'm gonna go over my list and I'm gonna get out of here. Mike is talking about that, you know, China has a low labor cost, blockchain technology, bye. Okay. We have Mitchell Liggins. He said, good evening from Alaska. Good evening, kind sir. We got Big Uzi. Then every 2 years, they switch the name on the gas station to not pay tax. The debt is the new slavery. The debtor becomes slave to the creditor. I agree. Jermaine down the streets from the piece you wrote to now, you're preaching, brother. Thank you so much. Mike says, first to fire, last to be hired. I agree. Let me go over some things for you guys really to think about. I said this the other day and I want to say it again. Because it's important that we know these things, family. Excuse me, rose break. Black people, Black communities, Black schools are underfunded. Flint, Michigan water is still not safe to drink. We live in neighborhoods that have toxins in the soil and in the water. Our neighborhoods are over policed, and when we need help, they're under policed. We have underfunded school systems. Remember your books in school? They were raggedy, you had tape on the side. Our businesses can't get loans. We have lack of resources across the board. See, that's why I think, you know, we really need to start investing in Black banks. Because again, as I told you before, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, banks like that, look up the history. Look up the history. How did they start off? T.I. is fighting against the Lords of London, that insurance company that insured slaves. But what about the banks who funded slave masters? YouTube, don't ban this video. What about inadequate living structures? What about the absence of rehabilitation drug programs to stemming from the crack cocaine epidemic, and now heroin is hurting the Black community. But you have programs for opioids. I wonder who that targets. As we said before, one of the describers, I believe it was Mike, said, first to be fired, last to be hired. Discriminatory business hiring and firing. What about the eradication of racist legislation and policies and bills in the American government? The lack of a voice for Black women in healthcare. We have the largest death rates for infants. Police violence, police murderers, police brutality, redlining of neighborhoods, unequal justice. We don't have it. We have unequal justice. Racist and biased laws that mainly affect the majority of African Americans. Gentrification, you know it. Let's get into it, family. Let me see, can you see that? They're gonna let me show this. There it is. Let me tell you some stuff that Dr. Claude Anderson has in his book that you might not have known. Okay, and if anybody has this book, this is back in the appendix. Now, some of you are saying that this is old, but I want you to listen to some of these. In 1705, the Virginia Public Office prohibited Blacks from holding or assuming any public office. I know it's old, right? Okay. 1815 required free Blacks to pay a $2.50 tax so whites could vote. I'm gonna read that again. Virginia poll tax required free blacks to pay a $2.50 tax so whites could vote. And we understand back in 1815, $2.50 was a lot of money. Just picture it as $1,000 or something. Do you have $1,000 so a white person can vote? 1831, Mississippi preaching law forbade or forbid free Blacks to preach except with permission. They couldn't preach except without permission. 1833, Georgia employment law prohibited Blacks from working and reading. It prohibited Blacks from working and reading or writing jobs. These are laws, ladies and gentlemen. These are laws of your states. This ain't nothing new that they're killing us in the street. (1833) Georgia literacy law provided fines and whippings for teaching Black people. I'm gonna move on. When I say 18, you guys go crazy. I'm gonna move on. 1844, Maryland Occupation Act excluded Blacks from the carpentry trade. We couldn't learn how to build houses. They want everything we do to be dependent on them, and that's still today. (1804) Ohio anti-mobility law. This law restricted the movement of Blacks. You couldn't even move. You was a jail in your own, you was in prison in your own community. See, some of these are 16 and 17 and 18. Well, what's really different? What's really different from what you see on TV, what you see in social media? We don't do what they tell us, so they kill us. But an armed white young man can put his hands up and walk right past you with a assault rifle. The question is, what if he was black? Now, I'm just going to say we already know the answer to that question. Was he a race soldier? Of course. It's too easy to label. But we're thugs. We're animals when we riot. That's the only thing they know, people. But see, I want my people to live. They understand destruction of property. They hate that because everybody started to lose money, especially the insurance company. I'm going to tell you our strongest voice. And hell no, I'm not saying voting. You know my stance on voting. You get no votes from me unless, as Ice Cube would say, you come up with a plan of tangibles. We shall hold our vote hostage until they come up with tangibles. The strongest voice that we have, family, is boycotting. It's boycotting. It's boycotting. Because the one thing I know, white supremacists don't want us to mess up that money. They will have you to believe that Hispanics are the lower class. Didn't I just tell you the wealth gap? Hispanics are at the median amount of 20,000. Foundational Black Americans are at the median amount of 17,000. What do we do, family, when they kill us in the street? Malcolm X said, by any means necessary. What does that mean? Should we take to the streets? Should we take it to the voting booth? The one thing that we have to understand about this country is they love power and they love money. Most love both. Being violent is in this moment right here. I don't know. I don't think that we need to be violent. I think that we need to be unified in our boycotting. I think organizations and companies that allow white supremacists to work there and to manage and supervise and own there, we need to boycott those businesses. It's easy to go and riot, and a lot of our people will get hurt, they will get incarcerated, and they will get killed. If this doesn't affect you, that's been going on for the past it happened way before 1619 when the first slaves came to America. But now it's affecting this generation, just like it did the last generation and the generation before last and the generation before last. What do we do, family? What do we do? I talked to my brother today. He said, first and foremost, we need to know our history. And then another brother of mine said, what's the next step? What is the next step? Everybody is asking, what is the next step? Oh, lock up the police, indict the police that killed Breonna Taylor. Prosecute the police that paralyzed Jacob Blake. What else? Those are so minuscule. It's not that their lives don't matter, because their lives matter. It matters that it continues to happen to our people. Those are the ones that only became publicized. Do you know, even after George Floyd, there were African Americans still unjustly detained, incarcerated, tased, and beat? They didn't become public. Family, what do we do? What is our plan? If we gather up guns and march up to the Capitol and show us a protest, what is that? No, that's not going to do anything. We have to increase and support our own economic structure. Everybody been to BOM, B-O-M, Black-owned market? Hopefully you have. Support your own family. And if any professional athletes see this, continue to protest. Continue to boycott. Because that is where they understand. When we boycotted, was it the Montgomery bus system? I know Rosa Parks, I forgot what city and state that was. As a matter of fact, I have her bookmark right here, Rosa Parks. The mother of the civil rights movement, 1913 to 2005. Civil rights activist Rosa Parks refused to surrender her seat to a white passenger on a segregated Montgomery, Alabama bus, which spurred on the 381-day Montgomery bus boycott that helped launch nationwide efforts to end segregation of public facilities. The city of Montgomery had no choice but to lift the law requiring segregation on public buses. Rosa Parks received many accolades during her lifetime. 381 days of a boycott. Boycotting is very powerful, ladies and gentlemen, because it has to deal with money. And believe me, if you don't know, white people depend on the black dollar a lot. This is our power. See, when we are not in government and position, and we don't have a lot of millionaires and billionaires, the one thing that we have is the power of the dollar. To spend or not to spend is the question. Ladies and gentlemen, that is my time for tonight. Hopefully you got some insight on what is occurring in America. Nolan Baptiste, thank you, my Black Canadian. I appreciate it. But we understand that being American, being Canadian, being from Africa, being from the Caribbean, coon or no coon, you're still black. Go watch Jay-Z's song, The Story of OJ. Doesn't matter what you are, you're still a nigga. We have the power to bankrupt states. We have the power to bankrupt a nation. Support your own first. And by the way, before I forget, Rose, anyway, I got 2 awards that I would like to award some really fine people. Jack Brewer, you spoke on the RNC last night. Talking about this country. You get the coon crown, sir. You get the coon crown. Jack Brewer, my hat's off to you, sir. You have won the coon crown. And Clarence. Oh, Clarence. 60 years been in it, and things are a lot better. You get the second coon crown, sir. It's not because you spoke at the RNC. It's because of what you guys said at the RNC. You guys both are winners of the Financial Literacy 101 Coon Crown. Wear it in proud, wear it in style, and wear it all the time. Learn money. Learn your history. Learn who you are. Learn where you came from, and learn where you want to go. This is Financial Literacy 101. I'm out. Oh, Clarence.